Hi there.
Hello.
Gee whiz, Mike, it looks like you guys are having too much fun.
You're unmuted. Let me unmute you. Here you go. We can hear you now. Nope. Wait.
Awesome. Now we're at the bar.
Yeah, we're getting our background set up, so give us time. It's probably more appropriate. How are you doing?
Oh, doing good. Doing good. That's it.
Gwen, good to see you again.
Oh, looking forward to. We should have a pretty good group today. We had a fair amount of people registered for the event. We just sent out a bunch of reminders. So we should be rocking and rolling here pretty soon.
I know today's a long, bold pivot day, so we'll
Yeah.
ebb and flow with those that are participating in that as well. So.
Yeah, you know what? So timely though, because I don't know what you guys are seeing in Longmont or across the country, wherever you're at right now, right?
Sure.
I don't know what you guys are seeing, but inventory is just crazy low. It's absolutely ridiculous. So anything we can do to get an advantage and take another listing in this market, it's a win.
It's huge, and it's quick, simple, easy, generally speaking, to move them, and a lot less effort.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Hi, Brittany. Thanks for joining.
You know what? Let's.
Hey, Christy.
Nobody wants to hear that. Looking to get some music going, and the first thing that comes up is Bruno.
Hey, Christy, we want you on video.
I think she's getting her hair done.
Yeah, that's what she said. She had an appointment today, I think.
I like to give people a hard time, so I want to see Christy with the foils in her hair.
With the foils in her hair.
Christy almost had to do a Facebook Live yesterday with 20 spots.
Let's see. Who's the winner? There we go. Maybe.
I got this feeling.
There we go.
There you go. Good for a second.
For a second there it worked. Here we go.
I got this feeling inside my bones. It goes electric, baby, when I turn it on. Off from my city, off from my home. We're flying up, no ceiling when we in our zone. I got that sunshine in my pocket, got that good soul in my feet. I feel that hot blood in my body when it drops. Ooh, I can't take my eyes off it, moving so phenomenally. Come on, like the way we rock it, so don't stop. It's under the lights when everything goes. Nowhere to hide when I'm getting you close. When we move, well, you already know. So just imagine, I can see but you when you dance. Spin up on you, so just dance. Come on, all those things I shouldn't do, but you dance. There ain't nobody leaving, so keep dancing. So just dance. So just dance. Ooh, something magical. It's in the air, it's in my blood, it's rushing on. I don't need no reason, don't be control. I fly so high, no ceiling when I'm in my zone. Cause I got that sunshine in my pocket, got that good soul in my feet. I feel that hot blood in my body when it drops. Ooh, I can't take my eyes off of it, moving so phenomenally. More like the way we rock it, so don't stop that. Under the lights when everything goes, nowhere to hide when I'm getting too close. When we move, well, you already know. So just imagine. I can see but you when you dance, dance, dance. Good creeping up on you, so just dance, dance, dance. Come on, all those things I shouldn't do, but you dance, dance, dance. Ain't nobody leaving, so keep dancing. So just dance, dance, dance. So just dance, dance, dance. So just dance, dance, dance. So keep dancing. Oh, yeah, yeah. I can't stop this.
All right. Well, it's about 2:35. I think as more and more folks kind of get caught up after Bold session this afternoon, and those reminders get sent out, we will they'll begin to trickle in a little more. But I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to you guys.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And do you have all the control you need to be able to share the screen and stuff?
Host disabled attendee screen sharing. So I think you're gonna have to allow us access. There we go.
Done.
She always likes it because I have 482 windows open, so she's got to go find it on my screen. Just to
Oh
show
God.
Oh yeah, that's no joke there.
No, that's just one like Chrome browser.
That's when I got like 4 browsers open. I don't like to have to go search and reopen stuff. So,
Right?
cool. I've got my administrative partner Wizard here, so she's really good with the tools. So social distancing is not really a thing when we're sitting in Nashville right now. So Nashville's rules are a little more less restrictive than Colorado right now. So we're breathing each other's air.
Awesome. Well, obviously you're here for a win with sellers. We are the Integrity Home Group Network supported by Mike Nelson team. How do you move forward on that? There we go.
There you go.
Alrighty. So kind of just a little bit about us, who we are, where we come from, what our goals, our visions, our missions, all that good stuff is. You kind of want to take it away with how you started
Yeah, absolutely.
business.
So from us, you'll get to know us. We're pretty low key. We like to banter back and forth. So we have a lot of fun in what we do, and we like to portray that fun because we really do have a lot of enjoyment in this business. And we also just like to, engage with you all. So feel free at any point in time. I'm sure Anna will be awesome in helping us and monitor any chats that come in or any questions. Feel free to bounce in as you desire. And we'll be happy to address anything that you guys have on the table. Again, much gratitude from us. Thank you for joining us. It shows a lot of eagerness for you guys to want to learn more. We don't have all the recipes and all the magic secrets. However, we were able to build what we were able to build, and we're happy to share some of those secrets with you guys, if you want to call it, or best practices, maybe is the right way to say it. So from our perspective, this is, we're across Colorado. I think we've got now up to 5 locations in Colorado. Thanks to Anna and Christy Taylor. We're now also in the South Denver Lone Tree office as well. So thank you guys very much for allowing us the opportunity to come in and be a part of your organization. And we're in Nashville currently, getting ready to expand here with Marcus Heflin, who's a Bold coach, so on and so forth. So anyways, very much, again, thank you very much for the opportunity. From us, we started about 7 years ago. So we feel like generally in the industry, we're kind of rapid pacing. By all means, there's very much more successful, quicker growers or faster growers than us. Yet we're proud of what we've been able to accomplish. And it's not by Mike's geniusness, it's by a collective support system that we have, whether it's our agent partners, our staff. We're really just big into acquiring talented people. And that really is what drives the bus. So don't really have much. A lot more I can go into that. I mean, a little bit of you guys that have heard us talk before. I had 20 years in the Air National Guard, so I'm very disciplined. I have a lot of processes and systems. It's kind of my background. I will tell you, sales was not really my background. So I had to acquire that skill, let's just say. However, I'm kind of a high I with a lot of D in there as well. So
A lot of D.
Once I started hiring people, my D got a lot higher, especially like Brooke. No, I'm just teasing. So anyways, again, anybody can do this business and do it at a really high level. I truly believe that. I'm not the smartest guy out there. Brooke's not the smartest operations person out there. I feel like we're dedicated. We have a lot of work ethic, without a doubt. However, again, there's a lot of opportunities, and listings is where the business is at. We've heard Gary say that, leads, listings, and leverage. That's what we've been able to, quote, master is probably not the right word because we are pretty buyer heavy. I will go into that a little bit. I think that is a little bit of where the industry is today. Yet the listings is where the business is at. So you're always striving to get more listings. Okay, that's kind of pretty much that's it. So again, we obviously are a little bit, present this slide from a little bit of a greed standpoint. So if you guys know of any business up north that you don't want to take care of, or you got anything in Nashville, man, we'd love to help you out and take care of you. So thank you for the opportunity.
All right, so getting right into it. We all know that every transaction is important, especially as a brand new agent, experienced agent. Every transaction counts. The importance of listings, it's more so than buyers. So just like Gary says,
Why is that?
Yep. So most sellers will want to buy. So therefore you can get two deals at one. It's additional marketing. So your sign and your information are being marketed on the front lawn, all over social media. You can advertise a listing through command in order to attract buyers. If that's of interest to you, I'm definitely happy to do a quick tutorial on how to run an ad through command in order to attract buyers for your listings and advertise your listings for more. You can receive sign calls from unrepresented buyers. So a buyer drives by your sign, sees your number, and gives you a call, and there you go. You're now a transaction broker, or you treat them as a customer. Also, if you have leverage within your administrative team or staff or listing manager, transaction coordinator, anything of that sort, listings do take less time to process, especially if you're letting those kind of tedious tasks like entering it into the MLS, scheduling photos and staging and all that good stuff. It's a lot less time on your plate, which gives you more time to go lead generate. And then in addition to that, you can run your own open houses. So you can do that virtually right now, which increases your advertising over social media and the internet as a whole. So that's highly important right there. A lot of people and a lot of newer agents are always interested in hosting open houses. So the more listings you can get, you're putting yourself one step above that too.
So the proverbial thing I see a lot with newer agents, and I don't know how many we have on the call today. However, I suspect there's a couple. Is always that proverbial like, well, how do I get open houses if I don't have listings? Yet how do I get listings if I can't do open houses, right? It's kind of the vicious circle of limiting thoughts of, it's kind of, I can't get one or the other, therefore I can't have both. I believe check with your market center policies, so I don't want to overstep that. Yet a lot of times, sometimes the market centers will allow you with permission from another co-broker or another agent in the office to advertise their listings, to maybe host their open houses. Again, I don't want to speak on behalf of Anna. Okay, thank you. That's an opportunity. Now, the question is, a lot of times agents that I see will just go on to the Facebook page, the private group, the personal KW page in-house and go like, hey, I'm looking for an open house. Cool. I'm going to suggest you do something a little bit more and different. Go make relationships with agents in your office. go be that relationship-based person. Don't just throw it on Facebook, because you're no different than the other 20 maybe new agents that throw it on Facebook. Go be a part of your culture. Go be a part of your office. Warm up with some of the bigger agents in your office, and I'm sure they'll be glad with a relationship to give you some opportunities. Now, obviously with open houses, they tend to be more virtual now. So have a game plan. I know Pivot has like a 7-level open house, or at least a document out there where you can show how to do virtual open houses. If an agent in the office were to come to me and say, Mike, can I do one of your houses you have listed and do it virtually? What am I going to tell them? I'm going to probably tell them, show me your game plan, because it's my sellers that you're representing, kind of, quote unquote. I want to make sure that you really are on top of your game. Don't just tell me you want to run an open house, because that's almost like you're going to stick a sign in the yard and nothing's really going to happen. And I want to help grow you as an agent too. So I'm testing you a little bit. Whether you're on my team or not, I still want to test you to make sure you're doing the right business practices that Ignite teaches you, that Anna's working with you on, your PCs are working with you on. So highly encourage you to do that. I do believe personally, virtual open houses are going to be the wave of the future. I mean, my gosh, in my opinion, we put our sin, again, we're probably being recorded, so I'll try to keep it very, try to keep it within the lines. My concern though is, if I'm a seller, why do I want random people in my house that nobody knows? Do I trust the agent's going to control the people that come into my house, right? That type of stuff. Virtual to me is a much safer place for us to run virtual open houses. If I'm a seller, I'm going to be like, cool, run it virtually, because I don't want all these foreign random strangers, unqualified, we don't know who they are in the house. We can totally do that. And as a matter of fact, there's some really big agents that are doing different things where they're running like podcasts, where the actual rainmaker sits in the home office and they use a product called StreamYard. And again, I'm not encouraging people to go spend money. I'm just giving you examples. They're doing like a StreamYard where they have their agents out in the field at an open house, and the rainmaker's acting like the anchor man. And then he sends off the news feed to somebody who's at the open house, almost like they're a field reporter walking virtually through the open house. So there's really creative ways to do this. And with StreamYard is it'll push out to all these Facebook pages as live streams, different things like that. I could go on for an hour about that that process, yet I just wanted to kind of like throw a little teaser out at you that there's some really creative ways to run virtual open houses.
And I think bottom line, it's all about being intentional. So what are you doing to put yourself out, like to set yourself aside from everybody else, to separate yourself and be intentional, create that game plan. Don't do what everybody else is doing. Kind of trial and error some new things, especially with where we're going these days.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. So primarily the 7 different topics that we're going to discuss today is the seller service cycle. So we'll talk about the lead conversion, pre-listing, listing consultation, servicing and marketing, offers and negotiation, what the contract to close process looks like, and then what happens after you close. Do you just say, see ya, happy closing day? Or are you doing something to be intentional after that to stay top of mind and get those referrals from past clients? We're going to spend a little bit more time on some topics and less time on others that we felt that would probably be the most beneficial to dive a little bit deeper into. So if you guys do want anything more deep, just kind of send that in the chat and we're happy to do that for sure.
Yeah, and just know that this is like an 8-hour course from KWU, and we're just paring it down to 2 hours. So we're going to kind of gloss over some things. So we're not going to really do as much role play, lead generating, things like that you would expect with an 8-hour course. So just bear with us. We kind of took what we felt like were key highlights out of it, yet there's so much more information to this that KWU created. Put it down, Kim.
That works.
So lead conversion. So that was kind of one of the number 1 steps, right? What's the do's and don'ts of lead generation? Words of wisdom, obviously, from KWU is to succeed in real estate, you must have client leads. It's kind of common sense, right? We all know that. It's a matter of how do you go get it? How do you find it? What's the system behind it? It's really that simple. Until you have enough leads to meet or exceed your goals, there's no other issue. I know Gary talks about in his Shift book, similar scenarios, like, hey, no matter if you're a doctor, lawyer, an entrepreneur, everyone has two jobs, their chosen profession and lead generation. Look, if you're a restaurant owner, if you're in real estate, I don't care what business you're in, whether you're selling a service or a product, you got to go out there and find that business. And I think that's kind of a challenge sometimes when agents come into the business, they don't really realize the amount of time they have to find to go get the business. And so we'll dig into that a little bit deeper. So please, like I said, if you guys have any questions, and we'll probably even throw some interactive statements on here to make sure you guys haven't fallen asleep or checked out on us. So bear with us.
I think the key point here in the chart that you see for high production listing agents, what they do, and then what agents don't do. So I think the biggest thing to point out is follow-up. So everything you do with lead conversion has to do with follow-up. There's rarely are you going to pick up the phone and call someone and immediately have an agency signed and ready to put a listing on the market. So you have to really focus and dial in on that follow-up system and create that system through either drip campaigns or just a smart plan through command, things like that. And the consistency within that follow-up. So you can't just say, hey, I'm gonna call all my leads this week, take next week off and call next week or the following week. It has to be consistent. You can never skip follow-up. It's always gonna be top of mind for you. That's your 20%.
How many people, just for grins, and I know Anna's off camera, so she might or might not be catching this, but I'm curious, and maybe I can figure out how I can see your chats as well. I'm curious to see how many people lead generate 4 hours a day, every day, 4 hours a day. Would you kind of put in the chat if you do 4 hours of lead gen a day?
I'm not seeing anything in the chat. I'm not sure.
No worries. All right.
It might be under the more button for some people. If you have a more button, that might be where your chat lives.
I'm curious to see how many people actually lead generate 4 hours a day. And it's okay if you don't, right? But however, the key piece of that is, yeah, I see like more, there's a chat. Yeah, they keep changing the.
Thank you, Tammy.
Yeah, thanks, Tammy. Appreciate that honest response. Yeah, they keep updating Zoom now with all the crazy usage of it, so we get to find all the new tools. So, okay, awesome. So yeah, I mean, that's the reality of it is my world. Nothing else matters. If you don't have business, this is just my opinion, there's nothing else that's more important than going and finding that business, right? I can have the prettiest buyer presentation. I can spend the most time, creating listing presentations. I can spend a lot of time doing a lot of different things in preparation. However, it doesn't really matter. If I'm not going out and getting the business, this is just Mike's kind of straightforward talk. Nothing else matters. I'll figure it out when I get a client, to be honest with you. And I'll tell you, I was that guy when I joined. I was IBM, military. I was like, I need to be perfect. I want to be like spot on when I get a client. Cool. However, I'm not a success story. While we're pacing to do 200 units this year, I will tell you it took me 9 months to get a deal, right? Because I wanted to build a strong system. Fortunately, I was financially able to do that 9 months. However, I didn't think I was going to make it after 9 months. I'm like, peace out. And my wife, thankfully, convinced me otherwise. So, but lead generation, right, is everything. And I know we say that, and that's this big word, lead generate. Great. What does that mean, right? I need success. What is successful lead generation? We'll talk about that. Okay. So we'll talk a little bit about lead conversion. So, right, we're trying to capture the leads. Now we got to convert the leads. One thing we look at lead conversion is there's different types of motivated leads. What we're really looking for is what I'll call ARW, right? The able, ready, and willing. So are they financially able to complete the transaction? Are they ready and motivated? And are they willing to take action now? You see how that bubble, that 3-piece chart merely works together in itself? A lot of times we find people that are able, yet their motivation doesn't match with what can be a transaction. I want $1 million for my $500,000 house. Cool. To me, that's not ready. That's not motivated. That's going to be a pain in your, you know what, and you're going to spend a lot of money and it's probably not going to sell. Then it's the willing, right? Are they willing to do it now, or are they 2 years out? And how do we talk to them about having a conversation about what does 2 years look like versus selling it today? I'm a relationship-based guy. I'm not going to force people to do things that they don't want to do. However, it's my job as a consultant and an educator to give them today's market versus the unknown in 2 years.
And the one word that pops out on here is motivation. So whether you're working with a buyer or a seller, I would say seller is probably a little bit more important to figure out their motivation, because that's going to drive your price. That's going to drive the time. It's going to drive the majority of what you're doing. So defining that motivation and really getting deep into what that motivation is, not just, hey, I need to move for my job. Well, why do you want that job? Why is that job important to you? Why is having that job going to benefit your family? So asking those deeper questions so that you can always go back to that motivation, whether you're on the listings, throughout the listing process or the contract to close process, you can always revert back to that. And that's what's going to push the listing forward.
Yeah, and a lot of times what we should be doing, in my opinion, is scripts and role playing, is learning how to ask open-ended questions. I don't believe people give enough credit to the power of open-ended questions. Do you want to sell today? Is a yes or no. That doesn't tell me anything as an agent. What's important to you about selling today? What's important to you about selling in 6 months? I get a lot more information about that open-ended question than I do asking a yes or no. Guess what? People love to talk about themselves. That's a human nature. If you get them talking about themselves, they will spill you the beans and give you so much information, yet they won't if you ask yes and no questions. You have to be intentional about the open-ended questions. And a lot of that's around motivation, right? Hey, I'm calling you because unfortunately my parents passed away. I live in New York right now. I knew you from high school, Mike. I trust you to sell my parents' house. Cool, I have their motivation. I didn't even have to ask them a question in that case, but I would ask them what's important to you, right, about selling it. And they would give me the things. We don't want to deal with it. This is a hassle, quote unquote. We just want to sell it. We want to get the money distributed through the trust, whatever the case may be. You know, those are questions that I'm digging deeper into to find out, are they able, ready, and willing. Yeah, good. Excuse me. So
yeah, getting into capturing for the lead conversion. So getting to the table first or second is what matters. It matters more than the actual physical presentation while you're there. So that competitive battle is almost single-handedly won by getting an appointment before somebody else does. So we'll talk about this a little bit more here too, I think soon. But you have to ask for that appointment. You're on the phone, you're talking to them, you're following up. Don't hang up that phone until you ask for that appointment. If you don't ask for it, you won't get it. And then continue to capture those leads through 10 days of pain. So when you receive an inquiry, you're going to return a call 3 times a day for 3 consecutive days until you get a yes or no response. Yes, that sounds like a lot, but the 10 days of pain is proven to work, and it's proven to be successful. So you're hitting them 3 times a day for 3 days consecutively, and then you're sending them a CMA via email, and then you're going to send them a hot sheet on market stats according to your local MLS. And then you're always going to come from contribution. So what does it mean to come from contribution with a seller? This week for our touch plan, in order to attract more sellers, we are sending a flyer out to our database, which is like a DIY flyer, how to get your home ready to sell. So just a pretty little flyer with 4 different topics on good ideas on how to get your home ready to sell. We don't know if they're interested in selling, but this touch might pique their interest, or they have slight interest and it's going to push them over the edge. Coming from contribution, you could use that for social media advertising too, and push that to a landing page where you're going to capture their information. So there's different creative ways, even just by creating a little flyer. I created that for our team. I did not just randomly say, hey, these are good ideas to sell your home. I read articles. I literally typed in Google and found creative ideas and kind of pieced it all together. So don't think you got to reinvent the wheel by any means. It's out there. You just got to search for it.
Yeah, and kind of the things that lead up to a lot of these things is, how strong is your database? Are you intentional with your database? Do you have a 75 touch plan, a 36 touch plan, a 142 touch plan? What do you do? What do you have? How are you reaching your database? That's a way to do it. Here's a do-it-yourself video. Here's a do-it-yourself, like getting your home ready for staging. Guess what? You're branding yourself every time you come from contribution to help somebody out. And one of the things, I'm sorry for a lot of the noise, it's like dumping cats and dogs out here right now. So if you guys hear a bunch of rain noise, I apologize. Yeah, with that, the reality of it is do they know that you're the local expert? And what I mean by that, not only real estate, but business partner needs. Do they know to call Brittany? Do they know to call any of the folks on the call? Do they know to call you to go, like, I need a dog walker, I need a cat sitter, right? I don't know, right? Do they know you're that person? Why is that important? That's important because you're keeping that relationship going through different avenues, right? It's not always about selling real estate. It's about, are you the go-to? Are you the local market expert? That's important because people trust and that those that give them guidance and give them good resources. I hope that makes sense.
So getting more into that, so your connect process is, you need to understand. You need to understand where they are. Again, you need to understand their motivation. So again, it goes back to motivation. The conversation should answer the following questions in detail. Who are they? What do they need or what do they want to do? Where do they want or need to do it? Why do they want or need to do it? And when do they want or need to do it? So what, where, why, when, and how do they plan to do it? So
Yeah.
Those keywords, every single question that you ask, what, where, why, when, and how.
Yeah, I promise you, when I go up against a lot of other agents in competitive listings, if you will, I walk out the door, I feel like the number 1 or 2 agent that has the most information from a potential listing client because of how many questions I ask. If you think about yourself, and if somebody's talking to you and teaching you, or they're asking a bunch of questions, do you feel more engaged when they're asking you questions, or do you feel more engaged when they're lecturing you? And unfortunately, in this virtual world, we're doing a lot of lecturing. However, when you're the listing presentation, right, the more information, they feel like you're asking, by asking a lot of open-ended questions, that builds rapport. That builds a psychological thing of, they truly care for me. Look, they don't care that Mike did XYZ deals. They don't care that Mike won all these awards. They really don't care. None of that's important to them. It's nice, like, supporting evidence that you're experienced, yet they don't care. They care about meeting them where they're at. Meeting them where they're at. Where are they at? Are they needing to sell today? Why are they needing to sell today? Do they need to sell in 6 months, and you just build a pipeline for them and you follow up with them for 6 months? All of those things are important in asking and building a relationship for a listing.
So in order to connect with these people, so obviously you're trying to capture and get to their motivation, but how do you truly connect with them? You build rapport. How do you build rapport in such a small setting? I always go back to the DISC profile. So you always need to know who you are sitting with. And I say this even with open houses, appointments, your door knocking, whatever. You can usually tell what somebody is on the DISC profile within 60 seconds of meeting them. If they reach out to shake, well, in normal circumstances, not COVID-19, but if you have a seller reaching out to shake your hand, or they're immediately initiating the conversation, and they're just kind of spilling their beans with you, they're a high I. So you might need to interact with them at a higher level. You might not need to just go right for the close or right for the direct questions and that direct conversation. You might need to add some more fluff into the way that you speak to them. And just know that if you're sitting down with a husband-wife, for example, they might be yin and yang. You might have two totally different personalities, almost like an agent and an admin. You might have the wife on one end who's a high SC, who's very cautious, wants the numbers and the stats behind it, and really is going to want to make a very educated decision. And then you might have a husband who's on the other side and is a high D. Just give me the facts, get to the point, and leave. 30-minute listing consultation. Whereas the other side, it might be an hour, because you might have to go through all of that detail and educate them on a higher level and increase that interactive perspective of your conversation. It lays the foundation for what your working relationship, so that words of wisdom from KWU. Your first goal in connecting is to build confidence and trust. And you do that by exuding confidence in yourself and showing attentive professionalism by asking questions. So leading with confidence. Listings are difficult to get. They're not easy. The seller's the one paying your commission. You have to go into that appointment expecting to get the agency signed, expecting to gain that listing and earn that listing, while being professional, not arrogant. But going in there and saying, this is what I want, this is what we're gonna do, this is the plan of action, once you get that motivation from them and you connect with them.
The reality of it is, like Gary says, it's 10,000 hours to mastery of anything. 10,000 hours. Think about how long 10,000 hours are. Unfortunately, or fortunately in our society, things move at such a rapid pace that we don't realize that it doesn't happen overnight. A lot of times what I see agents do is, hey, I got a listing appointment. Crap, I got to build a listing presentation. I haven't done one yet. Cool. If you're just building a listing presentation, that's okay, right? Because I talked about earlier, let's lead gen first and figure it out. Yet at some juncture, we got to flip the switch to, cool, let's not only figure it out, but let's practice it, right? A lot of times we're practicing on our clients. Not a good thing, right? And then our agents are getting frustrated, or agents get frustrated when they're like, I can't get anybody to sign with me. Cool, let's sit down and do the listing presentation, and we do it, and I'm like, it's like needles on a chalkboard, right? I'm like, cool, let's work on that, right? It didn't sound like you had much practice with this. Let's really practice before we go into the field. And one of those practices is, I'm sure your market center does scripts. You can get together as partners and do your role playing. I know nobody likes to role play. However, if you want to be good at your craft and your skill, I believe it's something you sign up for when you become a real estate agent if you want to be successful. You got to know what you're saying, when to say it, and handle the objections. A lot of times we think we're good at doing it on the fly. I'm that guy. I'm that guy that likes to work on the fly. I don't want to study and do a lot of preparation for anything, yet I've been burned many times for not preparing and being in the total control. And confidence is that other piece. I don't know how many times people say, wish me luck. I'm like, you shouldn't need luck, right? Go in with the mindset that I'm going to kill this thing. This is my listing. I don't need luck. Luck's for fools, right? I'm going to go in and dominate this thing, and I'm going to take it. Go in with that mindset.
And then kind of getting into the pre-listing lead sheet. This does come from the Win with Sellers packet. So just so that you can kind of see some of those questions that are asked. So the pre-listing. How did you hear about me? Where are you moving? What's motivating you to move there? So again, motivation. How soon do you have to be there? So there's your timeline. If we sell your home in the next 30 days, will that pose a problem for you? Most of the time, probably not. They might say yes, and we do a post-closing occupancy. What would happen if your home did not sell? So again, motivation. That's not directly asking them what their motivation is, but that's going into, hey, if I don't sell this house, I'm going to foreclose. If I don't sell this house, I won't get my job across the country where I need to be. So again, motivation. How much do you want to list your home for? That's a great question, because you know how to approach that listing appointment if you know if they have an idea of a price point in their head. Because you're going to go run comps. I will tell you, most sellers will give you the Zestimate, which is highly inaccurate. And typically we'll think that their home is worth a little bit more. So If that is the case, then you can come prepared accordingly for that. How much do you owe on the property? So this way you can tell, are they going to be able to pay my commissions? Are they going to be able to pay the title costs? So all of these questions have intention behind it in order to prepare yourself for that appointment. Not every appointment is going to be the same. How you approach every appointment is not going to be the same. So you have to come prepared. And when you're prepared, you're confident. And then you want to just tell them, I'll be sending them a packet of information. Will you take a few minutes to review it before we meet? In later slides to come, we will actually show you what our pre-listing packet looks like, so you guys can get an idea of kind of the topics that we put in there. And then do you have any questions before we meet? That way you can get the answers if you don't have them yet. And then will all decision makers be there when we meet? Do not waste your time. Don't have an appointment if all of the decision makers are not going to be there, because you will not get the agency agreement signed and executed in full. Decision makers means anybody on title, anybody who has to sign off on the sale of the home. So if it's a sticky divorce situation and you're meeting with one party over the other, you might be hearing one side of the story and then come to find out the other party doesn't even want to sell.
Or they have another real estate agent.
Exactly. So those are just important questions. Again, there's intention behind every question. Prepare yourself accordingly.
Too many times we gloss over the pre-qualifying questions because we're just excited we got an appointment. We're like, yay, let's go. You live on 123 Main Street? When can I meet you? Look, when you get busy, and what I find with successful agents over time is their desire to be successful and run a lot of deals without having the proper organization, calendaring, and systems in place. They actually regret the success on occasion because it runs their life. The business runs their life. One of the ways you can help with that is pre-qualifying. Look, when I get successful, I don't have time for everybody. It's okay, right? I'm okay with that. Not everybody is equal priority to me and my business, because if they're not motivated and I haven't asked the right questions, I could be setting myself up to waste an hour and a half of my night. And again, I don't mean that in a negative way, yet if I'm working already 10, 11-hour days, 6 days a week, I'd love to have that hour and a half back to sit with my family to work on something else. So these questions are really important, because the last thing you want to do is drive 45 minutes through traffic to find out one party doesn't want to sell and one does, and the other party is not even at the house.
And I would say flip the script on that just a little bit and have a kind of a little bit of a different point of view. Obviously, what he was saying, kind of that experienced agent with multiple listings constantly coming in, you're going to want to critique that seller and qualify that seller a lot more and a lot heavier than you might if you're a brand new agent. If you're a brand new agent, you're eager, you're hungry, you're going to go out there and you're going to get what you can, and that's fine. As long as you ask the question for number 11, I would say that's going to be one of the most important questions to ask. If you're a newer agent and you can set that appointment, go to that appointment, whether you ask these questions or not. Again, keep the expectation correct in that perspective. Like, hey, I'm going to go on this thing. I didn't qualify them. I don't know anything about them. I don't know their timeline when they're ready to sell, but I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to practice this, and I'm going to kill it, and I'm going to continue following up with these people and ask these questions down the road as well.
Yep. And there's nothing wrong as bad as practice, right? Mm-hmm. Certainly do some practice on that. You can use that as a learning experience.
All right, so I mentioned this earlier. Key importance, if you take one thing out of this entire course, it is this: if you do not ask for the appointment, you will not get the appointment. Simple as that. We do morning huddles every single morning, and Christy can probably attest to this. Every time somebody says, I have my commitment today is to hold an appointment. No, it's not. It is, well, I guess, okay, for agency wise, let me switch that. So my goal today is to make 20 contacts. I'm going to say your goal today is to make 20 contacts and set an appointment. Because during those 20 contacts, you should have at least one opportunity to ask for that appointment. And then same with the agency. So we'll have agents come on to our morning huddle and say, hey, I'm gonna hold an appointment today. No, you're not. You're gonna get an agency signed today. That's your commitment. Because if you don't ask for it, you're not gonna get it.
She's really not that mean on the phone.
No, Christy, you just have to do 20 squats if you don't hit your commitment and do a Facebook Live.
Okay, maybe she is that mean.
It's him.
So the key with that too, like she said, is, you know, one of the things that we like to teach around is, or coach around is, it is very true that you have to ask for the appointment. You got to close 4 times. Most agents, a good percentage of agents won't even ask for the close 1 time for the appointment, let alone 4. It's kind of like internet leads. Those who call 6 to 9 times on an internet lead are much more greater success than those who only call once. It's about asking multiple times. If you don't ask multiple times, your conversion rate is not as good, obviously, as somebody who will close 4 times on an appointment.
So we kind of go through these 10 classic closes quick here. And the first one is the hard close. So go right for it. Let's meet. That's it. Let's meet, see what they say, and go from there. The soft close. So if you're a little more of a high I and a little fluff, you like to add fluff in the way you say things, sound that way, I would probably use the soft close and say, I've really enjoyed visiting with you. Would you like to get together and discuss this further? I would also play these closes on how they are on the DISC profile and what you've assessed so far. So if you're dealing with a high D person, you might just need to go for the direct close. Can we meet today at 3, or would tomorrow at 4 work better? And if you've attended Bold, you've heard that before, that direct close. You're not going to say, when can we meet? Because then you're just going to have scheduling conflicts. Go into that appointment, go into that phone call and know exactly what your calendar allows for.
I promise you, like, yeah, Anna, when she does recruiting appointments and people are coming into her office, she doesn't go like, cool, when do you want to meet? She's like, cool, I have Thursday at noon, Thursday at 4, what works for you? Number 1, that helps you control your schedule. You're running your business. You're helping your clients conform to your schedule without really being negative about it. That helps you when you start getting busy. The other piece is you're putting them in a position of, do I say yes? Do I say no? I don't know what to say. Cool, I'm gonna say yes. And then what's gonna follow is I need to check with my husband. Awesome. I'd like to book it at 3 o'clock if that's okay with you. Check with your husband and get back to me, right?
So still set it. And if it needs to be rescheduled, it's rescheduled. And then the indirect close. So would it be okay if I got some information to look over and then we can meet to discuss it? The trial close. So you're asking the question, have we gone over enough today that a meeting would be our next step? So you're getting their buy-in. And I truly, truly think it's about reading their personality. So if you think that they're a little skittish when you're talking on the phone, the trial close might be the best step for you because you're putting the ball in their court. They feel like they have that control. It's all a psychological aspect to it. And then the assumptive close. It sounds like we should meet. I'm available most times this week, so what works best for you? And then the negative positive close. Would you be offended if I asked if we could meet to go over this? It's a simple question. Nobody is really going to be offended by that. You're pointing it out. The take back close. I've really enjoyed visiting with you. To be honest, I'm not sure if I can help or not, but I'd be honored if we could meet to find out. And then the tie down. So if you have attended Bold, you might have heard this one too. Wouldn't it make sense for us to meet in the next day or so? And then the alternative choice close. What works better for you? Meeting today, sometime this afternoon, or tomorrow morning? So again, you're putting them into like a box where they have to pick. You're not just saying, hey, do you want to meet with me? No, it's like, hey, we're going to meet. This is how we're going to do it. And sometimes you're adding a little bit more fluff in there as you go.
I'm very much a take control of the conversation guy, and maybe that's just my personality style. Forgive me for my language, but Brooke likes to call me the professional asshole. So, but again, I think it's because I'm driven and I'm not a jerk, but I'm just very like forward, right? It's like, hey, if we want to make this thing happen, we need to meet tomorrow at 2 o'clock. How does that work for you? If I'm driving them and pushing that, again, I can do that in a negative way and I can do it in a positive way. I'm doing it in a positive way just to get more information, just to get a sit down. I'm not holding them hostage to sign my document. I just want to be very forward with them because I don't have a lot of time to waste, right? And that's my opinion, right? It's like, cool, let's sit down and meet. However, if I have to play chase, in my opinion right now, you're not motivated. Or I didn't do a good enough job of value proposition to them to say, let's sign up with Mike right now, right? That's my mindset.
And I'm the opposite. So again, I do the take back close at number 8, add a little fluff in there. That's just me. Or the soft close. So it's kind of based on your personality, playing with their personality.
100%.
So. Awesome. So the pre-listing side, we're not really getting too in-depth on in that 7-step cycle. We can share with you what our pre-listing packet looks like and kind of what our workflow looks like. So the tasks that we complete once we get that agency signed, the time between getting the agency signed and getting under contract. So that pre-listing packet that we mentioned looks a little bit something like this once it loads. So we're just doing the title. Does it really matter who I work with to buy a home? Sorry, I think this is the sellers. Buyers. Oh, yeah, a complete guide to selling your house. So things about did you know? Just to kind of put some expectations in here. This is not necessarily meant to just fluff them up or fluff you up and say, hey, I've got a nice pretty packet to send you because I'm so professional. There's intention behind this. So the majority of real estate agents only do the 3 P's of real estate. So put it in the MLS, put a sign in the yard, and pray someone sells it. So you want to be the one that's prospecting for it. So if you know that you're going up in against multiple agents, you're sending them this so that they subconsciously realize that these things are in existence and not all agents are treated equal.
So where did you get this from?
I ripped off and duplicated it.
Okay. We're big R&D. So
Yes.
if you guys want copies of anything, we're happy to share our products. So
We
let you
are.
R&D it.
And then we do a little bit about our team. So this kind of shows them like, hey, this is who we are. If you're an independent agent, hey, this is who my market center is. I've got an awesome team lead. I've got an awesome MCA that processes all of our files for us, make sure everything's tidy. I've got an awesome employing broker who makes sure that all of the I's are dotted and T's are crossed on our contracts to make sure we're in compliance and you have your best interest at heart. And then just a little bit on Keller Mortgage, what our marketing plan is. So what our marketing plan is compared to other agents. So again, just setting us apart from others. And then what does the home selling process look like? So if they're actually reviewing this during the process or before your appointment with them, this is really going to drive it. They're going to already have kind of a high level overview of what it is, and then you can kind of stick them with the nitty gritty details as you're going through it.
It'll speed your presentation up too
Yeah.
when you sit down and do the consultation, if they've read it.
I would say this page is the most important. So when you're working with a seller, price is always the most difficult aspect because like every human, if you're a seller, you probably think your home is worth more than it is. Even if you're an agent selling your own home, you're always going to lean more on the high side. So we like to tell them, hey, the value of your house is not determined by this. So it's not determined what Zillow says. It's not determined by how much you paid for your house originally or what the tax office says. So again, it's just setting those expectations. And then pricing the house to sell. So you want to obviously price the house to sell. There's some different strategies around pricing, and we'll kind of talk about that in a little bit too. But really, I just kind of want to give you a high-level overview. So about Keller Williams in here. This one, I love this one. So if you're going up against multiple agents for the appointment, you're gonna tell your potential seller, here's some interview questions to ask the other realtors that you're interviewing, and provide all of those questions. Now, if you're giving this to your seller, I'd highly advise that you know the answers to all of these questions. Not go in there blindfolded because you're gonna get asked these questions and not know how to answer, or you might know how to answer, but just know that you've reviewed that. And then any notes that they wanna take. So just a formalized way of presenting yourself. That sets you apart from a lot of agents. A lot of agents don't have that documentation, that pre-listing packet. you really want to come from an educational standpoint. You are the seller's consultant. You're not just saying, hey, I'm about to list your house on the market. No, I'm going to educate you on what this process looks like, how I'm going to get you the best price in the quickest timeline that you want.
Yeah, and I think it's all about being professional. In my opinion, somebody's trusting me to sell a 300 to 600 to whatever home value home. I better come in like a professional. I'm an old school guy. I get it. I'm coming in dressed up. I'm coming in with a presentation. I'm coming in like a professional. That's critical. I can't say how many times I've won business just because the other agent I competed with had nothing. They walked in with a blank notebook saying, cool, how can I help you sell your house? I know that sounds silly, but there are agents out there that really don't have a game plan. They just show up. And just by me, no matter what I said, coming in looking professional and giving them a presentation, I simply won the business. So I'm not saying that's going to win it every time, yet that's a starting process of being successful, is coming in organized, well polished, good scripts, and then it kind of builds on from there when you start to work on that mastery level.
And then just kind of an example of that pre-listing workflow. This is just customized to our team, and it is slightly dated, so dot loop here instead of command, so just keep that in mind. But for the most part, it's all about being intentional. You don't want to miss a step. So when you go through your first pre-listing and you're kind of failing forward with it and getting some advice from some experienced agents, you want to document every single thing that you do and when you do it. We didn't just one day create this document. We went through many pre-listing processes and we were like, man, I forgot that part. Man, I forgot that part. I didn't market it on social media like I said I would. So this is a good way for you to be able to stay on top of it. And this process you can actually put into command, into the opportunities section in command, and then just create an opportunity for any sellers that you have in the pipeline in the pre-listing stage, and just start checking those boxes as you do them. So you want to be scheduling staging and photos and making sure you have all your compliance, like your agency agreement and disclosures submitted within 72 hours of signing. We create home books for our listings where you're just doing PDF versions if you want to do it for virtual. Placing a sign in the yard, doing a coming soon post on Facebook, activating the MLS, doing the showing time instructions. Tour Factory is the photographer that we use. So that's what that is. Set calendar in event for weekly stats update. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit too. Just not the list it and forget it sort of agent. And then just do a just listed post on Facebook and then the weekly updates to the clients. So really being intentional about that. So you can even see when we're doing it. And if it's a to-do or a call or email, just get really granular with it so that you can ensure that you're not missing a single step.
Right, and there's a lot of this process stuff I'm a big believer in, because what I see is by the time agents get successful and they need to have that virtual assistant or the TC hired on as a full-time TC like W-2 for the team, an EA, whatever it is, they never took the time to document the processes as an agent. They just kind of learned it in their head. And then what happens is they hit 30, 35, 40 units and they're like, I don't have time to train a TC. I don't have time to train an EA. I don't have time to write all the processes down. I'm like, cool. However, how is your EA going to learn to be successful with you if you haven't given them a roadmap and a tool and a system to help them? The market center can train you. However, they can't train to the level of the business that you run, if you will. It's too narrow. So be very cautious, and what I suggest you to do is learn to write your systems and processes as you go. It'll save you a lot of time and energy later upon building that success.
And then getting into the listing consultation, so being prepared. So having the 5 strategies to prepare for a great listing consultation. So knowing your scripts and materials, we've kind of talked about this throughout the presentation so far. So really nailing in on those scripts, knowing what the common objections are for a seller to use, and then knowing how to combat those. Understanding the market. So you are the market expert. You need to go into that appointment knowing what the average price point already is in that neighborhood, knowing what's recently sold in that neighborhood and what price point. That's going to be hugely important, because again, you are a consultant. You're consulting them and educating them on what the market's doing, which will justify the price and the timeline for the sale, so that they have that right expectation. Using communication techniques that build rapport. So again, that psychological aspect. So the communication techniques, like studying that disc profile and knowing that disc profile.
Ford.
Yep, and Ford, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. So really nailing deep into that, into what that motivation and that Ford to build that rapport, getting to know them, building that relationship. Number 4, be a consultant, not just an agent. And then 5, build an appointment toolkit. We'll show you kind of what that looks like at the end. We have a little resource tab at the very end, so we can kind of give you a glimpse of that, so you can pull some stuff from it.
And I think we'll talk about it in a minute. Yeah, I think one of the most, these things are not stuff you do like the day before a presentation. No. Like, this is what separates, I believe, the really good agents from the mediocre agents. Is the really good agents have been practicing this stuff for days and days and days, not waiting to land the listing appointment. And they're like, oh crap, what am I supposed to say? Oh crap, I better pull a hot sheet. Oh crap, I don't know anything about them. Or you know, a seasoned agent's gonna eat that one up for lunch in a competitive situation, because they're there, they've practiced it. And that's what I encourage you guys to do for the newer agents. For the senior or more experienced agents, keep refining, right? They've still got to know the market. It changes. Look at what COVID did, right? They don't just master the market one day. They're constantly studying it, learning it, and knowing it. They're being the local expert in the market. And that means they have to study the statistics weekly, monthly, so on and so forth.
All right, so again, with the listing consultation, you need to have a unique value proposition. You need to be able to explain to the sellers why they need to work with you and why they should work with you. So we'll kind of share with you our value proposition.
This is very critical in my opinion. So not only the scripts, not only the relationships, yet what makes you different from me, or vice versa. I'm gonna woo you and wow you and knock your socks off compared to any other agent when I'm doing a listing appointment, because we're all real estate agents. That's awesome. Woohoo, cool. Why would I use you over anybody else? That's really the underlying question of what I want to know. And so my job is to paint that picture of this is what makes us different. This is why you choose us.
Yep. So you have timely access to the latest knowledge across all aspects of real estate. So our team of agents and staff train hundreds of hours to provide solid, seamless, stress-free customer service. How awesome does that sound if you're going to a listing appointment and earning that listing? That's most people aren't going to come in with that. Most people aren't going to have a documentation that states these things. So your home receives the maximum exposure to the market through leading edge technology-driven strategies. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of agents have that. But are they telling them that? Do they have it in a form where it portrays the point across strong enough? You are partners with a team that is 100% invested in the community through charity work, volunteering, and business-to-business networking. So we are heavy into charity and volunteering, and highlighting our local businesses in the community. So that's something our team focuses on. And I really think that if you're an agent, you should be ingrained into the community. You should be that community expert as a whole. Someone comes and asks you what's the best restaurant in town, you've got it. Who's the best HVAC technician in town, you've got it. Whether they're current clients, past clients, what have you. And then you benefit from our partnerships with the best small businesses around during transactions and beyond through an array of concierge services. You enjoy a front row seat at our events where we express our gratitude to those we built relationships with. So we do quarterly events for our databases, so they'll be incorporated into that. And then lastly, you can trust us to be your local experts by virtue of experience, networking, and education. So we've completed over 300 transactions in 6 years of real estate in Colorado. So having that credential, if you're a brand new agent or you're an independent agent not unable to use a team statistic, use your market center, lean on your market center. That's why you're with Keller Williams. You're not with a boutique brokerage that you can use their their credentials behind you. You're with Keller Williams for a reason, for the education, the training, and the credibility. So use it and lean on it. And then if you kind of want to go into deep questions.
Yeah, so I'm a big about the 3 deep question guy, because that's how you really get to know their motivation, right? Is, you know, what's important to you about that? Well, we need to sell our house. Cool, what's important to you about that? Well, my wife got a job and we need to transfer. Okay, what's important about making that happen? Well, we need to do that by January. If not, she has to leave. I have to stay home with the wild hellion kids, and I just don't want that. Right? So by asking those deep 3 questions, I just got deeper than I need to sell my house. I learned that they need to sell it in January. I learned that they needed to do it to move because of a job. And I learned the husband didn't want to have to be home alone with the kids, right? And he wants to get back with mama across the states, right? So by going 3 deep, that's really important. And that's what builds a relationship. And guess what? That's why I usually walk out with a lot more connection and information when I compete with other agents, because now I can use that information to go back to them, 1, for motivation, 2, to get them the right advice that I need to give them. And so I've really built a relationship by asking those questions.
And if you kind of think of it from your own perspective, if you've been asked before by Anna or by your productivity coach or any coach that you've ever had in the past, what is your big why? I guarantee you that person asking you that is asking 3 questions deep, because they really want to get down to these specific reasons, not just I need to move to make money. Well, why do you need to make money? Why is money important to you? So asking those questions. So if you kind of think of it in accordance with your big why, it'll make a little more sense too.
Yeah, the newer agents stay at the surface level. The practice skilled agents get really deep, and they know almost everything about that person before they leave that meeting. What you do? You're not a Mac user, are you?
I'm not. You're just skipping it, I think.
Bear with us.
No, promise. Right.
There we go. So how many of you guys have heard of the promise script, right? I think where everybody's on mute, and I don't know how to look at everybody's windows right now. So with that, the promise script is really what you're looking for is in obtaining a referral for every piece of business that you get. We're still working on that. I won't say our team is like the experts at it. We haven't mastered it yet. There are some agents that I got the privilege to MAPS coach with that were converting this at a high level. They were getting literally 2 pieces of business through referrals for every closing that they did. 2 pieces of business. Imagine that. You land 1 and you got 3 pieces of business. Yet it doesn't just naturally happen. You have to be very, very intentional through a very systemized process to make that happen. I would say 95% of agents are just satisfied that by doing a good job will get them a referral. True, very true. It likely will. However, by being very intentional, not only will it assure you get a referral, it's likely going to get you 2 referrals. So we won't go through a lot of the promise script. We'll give it to you guys. We'll share it with you. But really, it's a lot about, look, I'm here to basically say, I'm here to do a good job for you. And in return, if I do a good job for you, I expect you to give me a referral of some opportunity. If I haven't heard from you in the first couple of weeks on a referral, I'm going to assume I'm not doing a good job. Is it okay if I check in with you to make sure I'm doing a good job because I haven't gotten the referral? I'm putting a little pressure on them, but it's okay. They're happy with that.
As long as you set that expectation and you run through this script at that appointment, they're going to have no qualms with it because you've set that expectation. Hey, I'm going to be asking for referrals throughout this process. I'm going to be checking in on how I'm doing and how you feel that I'm doing and representing you and consulting you. And if you feel that I'm doing an awesome job, I'm going to ask you for a referral and ask if you know anybody else looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate.
Yeah, too many times we wait till after the closing, and that's okay. Yet they're caught now in the stress of packing, moving, closing. And honestly, by the time they get into their new house, they don't really care to think about us until they have the next need. I don't mean that cold, but they really, they do care, but they don't care, right? They're like, cool, thank you for your help. I'll talk to you in a few years. when I have a business need, or at least I'll talk business in a few years. So I want to catch them where it's in their rim or their RAS. And while it's like fresh in their mind, I want to find a referral. I'm going to put a little pressure on them.
So checking for the commitment. So this is the trial close. So those closes we went over. So again, if you don't ask for it, you're not going to get it. So you want to ask them, do you have any questions or concerns about the listing process? If they answer no, then you're going to ask, are you ready to put me to work? Or great, let's sign the paperwork. So again, that's kind of your soft entry into that close or that trial close in order to get them going. So if they don't have any questions or concerns, then there should be no reason that they're not signing with you.
And I like to do the trial closes sometimes early on, because especially if I have like a high D and I'm just sitting there yapping and yammering for an hour and a half, and I probably could have closed that in 15 minutes. I'm going to try to close it in 15 minutes, because if he's going to or she's going to be like, yeah, where do I sign? I'm glad you asked. I'm going to sign it right there and save us all some time and some brain damage.
A funny example of this is we had an agent literally walk into the listing appointment. It was, they were competing against other agents and they had no clue about it. She literally walked in, opened her computer and said, hey, I'm gonna get started with my listing presentation so that I can educate you on what this process is gonna look like. I kid you not, like 5 to 10 minutes into that presentation, they stopped her and said, where do I sign? Because she walked in with a listing presentation. Something as simple as that. So coming prepared, coming with confidence. Not every agent that you compete with is gonna have that, even on a small level of just having that presentation.
The other little nugget I throw in, and this is a Ben Kinney thing, the Ben Kinney thing is I always ask a question, is there any other thing an agent said they would do that I haven't talked about doing? I can promise you, I've lost a listing presentation because I didn't say that I would do stupid flyers, forgive me, on the outside sign.
Yep.
I lost it because of that. Would I do that for a $12,000 check? Heck yeah.
Yep.
Heck yeah, I would, but I didn't talk about it, right? So it was important to them, and that's great. I just didn't ask the question. So I really want to know, if I'm competing, is there somebody else that lured them with something that I would totally be willing to do, but perhaps I didn't talk about it because it's not standard for me, right?
So going into the objection handling. So if you want to start with be glad you're hearing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, objections are something you want to hear. Yeah, that's them telling you, this is a concern I have, right? And that's good. I'd rather know that on the front end. Don't take that as like, oh, they're pushing back on me. Ooh, I'm scared of an objection. You hear objections all the time, right? It's totally an objection frequently. So for us, it's about being glad you hear it, knowing their concerns, and you can demonstrate your expertise. Again, there's a lot of objection handlers that we have in KW, whether it's never ending referrals, whether it's in Ignite. There's a lot of objection handlers that the more you know them, the easier and more confident you are to just spit them out. And a lot of times what I'm doing with an objection handler is countering back with another question. What's your commission splits? Well, I don't really negotiate commission splits. Is there a concern you have about that? Or not commission splits, but what's your commission, right? And so I go, cool, what's important to you about that? Well, I really want to save money. Okay, I understand that. So if I make you more money, would you be okay with that? Oh, I'd totally be okay with that. So do we still have a concern around this? No, not at all. Moving forward, right?
Value versus cost. So if I'm able to get you more for your buck, then what does my commission matter? And then kind of moving into that second bullet, I'm huge into the psychological aspect and that building rapport and knowing who you're working with. So kind of on that psychology, beginning with yes and, as in yes, and I understand your concern, or yes, and I'm glad you asked about that. So it's actively listening. By you saying yes and, you're not turning down their objection. You're not bringing negativity to their objection. You're saying, by saying a yes and, you're basically telling them, I understand where you're coming from completely. This is how we're going to go about it. So it puts them at ease just with those 2 words. It's a quick thing. It makes your message to them is that their concern is valid, not a problem, and you're welcome an opportunity to show value.
Yeah, and you're showing you're listening in them, and you're showing a partnership. You're not getting offensive like, well, hey, that's just not the way we do it. I understand your concern around that. How can I help you alleviate that concern? I want to be your partner. I'm not here to jam a transaction down your throat. I want to be a partner with you. I want to be a relationship with you throughout this process.
And then simple, ask for the close. You just demonstrated value and alleviated a concern. What better time to ask for their business? You were able to handle that objection in a professional manner. They're going to appreciate that. So go in with a soft close. Go in and ask for that. Are you ready to work with me? Do you have any other concerns? Great. Let's look over the paperwork and get that signed. And then go back and find the places where you address that objection in your process. Ask yourself, what can I add or improve to lessen the number of times I hear that objection in the future? So learn from what you're doing constantly. New agents, experienced agents, whatever you're doing, you're constantly refining what you're doing. It is whatever document you have, whatever presentation you have, it is a working presentation or document.
Yeah, look at technology, look at MLS changes, look at NAR changes, look coming soon, right? The business is always changing and evolving, good, bad, or indifferent, depending on your opinions on this situation. The reality of it is you can ask any new or experienced agent and say, it's a constant evolution. Those that are successful in this business continue to adapt and push forward. Those that are stuck in the mud and they get all mindset and like, that's crazy. That's the stupidest policy ever. Well, cool, I get it. However, what are you doing to change and adapt to move your business forward?
So kind of going into servicing and marketing. So you've got it on the market, or you maybe not have it on the market yet and you're wanting to do some pre-marketing for it, so long as you're abiding by your market center and regulation for compliance. But according to NAR, the top four tasks that the sellers want from their agent, it's always consistent. It's never changed. They want you to market the home to potential buyers. They want you to sell their home within a specific time frame for the price and price the home competitively, and ultimately find a buyer for the home and a qualified buyer. I think the biggest thing in regards to servicing is that communication. So you're not going to just list it and forget it. You're going to be on top of everything. You're constantly going to be looking at the market for that neighborhood, and you're going to be providing stats at least once a week. So for our team specifically, our listing management team and department, they are going into Zillow. They're going into realtor.com. They're going into our tour factory site for our photographer. They're going into all of the showings for all of the feedback we've had. They're going into and running any new listings that has come on in that neighborhood that's a comp, and disclosing that price. We're gathering all of those stats, putting it in a pretty little packet, and we're sending that off to the seller once a week. And then the agent is going to be calling them to review some of that stuff, especially if there's new listings on the market. So they're constantly hearing from you. They don't need to hear from you every single day throughout the pre-listing process or the listing. They just want to at least hear from you once a week. They want to know what you're doing to promote their listing. They want to know why their home's not selling when it should. They want to know if they should be doing a price reduction if the market's telling them to do that. Use facts, lead with facts, and providing those stats week over week will allow you to have those tough conversations with price.
Yeah, exactly. And by staying in communication with them, you're not coming out of what appears desperation or like, oh my gosh, it hasn't sold in 30 days. We're just now having our first update conversation. I need you to reduce price. I've been building that conversation because of my relationship with them and the conversation around statistics and number of showings throughout each week, that they naturally come to that conclusion a lot of times. Hey, Mike, that does seem a little odd. We've had 15 showings and no offers. I think you're right without even saying it. We might need to come with a price reduction. But if I waited till week 3 to go like, wait for them to call me, what's going on? Why isn't my house selling? I'm already in a defensive posture and they are too. It's tougher to have that conversation it's overcomable. It's just not as easy and smooth. I'd rather just tee it up for the next few weeks for them to see that they're out of alignment on price, and they just come to me. Hey, Mike, I think it's about time the price reduced. Hey, perfect. You called me. Thanks. I didn't even have to sell it at all.
Get your sellers to self-reflect. Like, be passive aggressive about it. Get them to self-reflect. Provide the data and the credentials behind it. And eventually they'll come to terms and realize it on their own without having to force it down their throat, for example. And then just like the 14-step marketing plan for listings, this is provided by KWU. You might as well use it. You might as well bring it to your listing appointments. I guarantee you other agents do not have a 14-step marketing plan for listings. So even just providing this to your seller and saying, hey, this is what I'm willing to commit to you in order to get you top dollar and in the time frame that you desire. These are the activities that I'm going to be doing. And right there, all they want to know is what you're doing. They just want you to communicate with you to communicate with them, to tell them what you're doing. So again, it's mostly just marketing, doing the just listed, follow up on every sign call, the for sale directional. Some of these things are very common sense things that you would automatically do. Seller does not know that. So coming in with those 14 steps is value in the seller's eyes. It might be something that you think as a listing agent, every listing agent does this. I automatically should do this. Every seller should know that listing agents do this. They don't. So overwhelm them with the things that you're going to do to market and service their home.
And that kind of went back to the previous section on the slide, right? Is the 4 things we're looking for is market the home to potential buyers, sell the home. These are things you should craft your message around. There's certainly things about I want my agent to be trustworthy, honest, and we need to craft messages around that as well. However, that's kind of the important piece, right? Is craft your message around what sellers want to hear. It's very true.
And then, sorry, real quick, I'm just going to plug in Command real quick. At your listing appointment, why not tell them about Command and what Command allows you to do? It allows you to market their listings, and it allows you to use their listing to attract buyers to it through Facebook Accelerator. Bringing this up also tells them, hey, I'm not just putting all the commission into my pocket. I've got expenses. I'm marketing your home. I'm paying for these Facebook ads. Keller Williams provides this awesome program called Command that allows me to do all of this and be efficient. Great smart plan, so I know that I'm not dropping the ball when I have a buyer come in that's interested in your home. So using that to your backing. And then real quick, we'll kind of talk about staging. We're big into staging. I mean, if a home doesn't need it and we think it's going to sell in one weekend, we probably won't stage the home. If we think that we're probably a little bit higher on the price point, or that's the top of that range that we gave them, we might stage the home to try and get that up there.
So I'll do, like, I'm a big believer in a staging consult. So when we say staging, I want to be clear on that. For us, we will pretty well, unless it's a hoarder house, a fix and flip, a pre-foreclosure that's been beat up, whatever, I'm not going to spend a lot of time and money on staging that. However, the standard house, we would definitely do, like what we do is we negotiate deals with or partnerships with the stagers to do like a 1-hour consult for like $60. They'll come in for an hour and give the seller homework list, and that's my commitment. Now, if they want to have furniture moved in, then it becomes a negotiation at that point. And I usually say the seller will pay for it. And if it's a high-end luxury home, I will say, seller, you pay for it. I'll reimburse you 50% at closing, because I've been burned recently to the tune of about $24,000 in rental staging for a year, and that was painful. You know, we all fail forward, right? And if there's any luxury agents on here, they're probably laughing at me right now, because that's probably not a mistake that they make experience in the luxury market. All right. And again, we all make mistakes and we all learn from them. That's just the way business is.
So talking about pricing, this is a tough one with sellers. It doesn't have to be tough if you practice and come prepared and know your scripts and know the objections and things like that. For someone who is going into the first listing appointment ever, you're probably going to fail forward a little bit, and that's fine. Don't be afraid to be professionally honest. I think that's key. Somebody is hiring you for your professional advice. So you should be providing that. No, you don't need to be like, you need to price it at this point, and this is the only thing that it's going to sell for, and you're being unrealistic. That's not how you approach it. You approach it with facts. You come with those comps for the recent solds and things like that. Pricing right isn't hard work, but it's worth it because it gets your sellers to their goals and you make money for your business. Professional honesty is your best approach. It means understanding where customers are coming from and being professional enough to stand up for them. So again, you are their consultant. They're hiring you to advise them. So you need to be telling them the truth about those market conditions, the condition of their property, and helping them self-reflect. Buyer and buyer agent feedback and comparable property sales. So I think Mike does this pretty well with the coaching his sellers to kind of self-reflect on their own property condition. So he'll go into a listing appointment and run the comps right in front of them. He will literally pull up RE Colorado or IRS, wherever the listing is, and say, hey, we're going to do this together so that you can kind of see it and you know that I'm being truthful about all of this. So when he pulls up a comparable property that might be in better condition, you might just ask that question, go through the photos and tell me what things kind of do you think set your home apart from theirs? What things do you think their home sets their home apart from yours? So flip the script a little bit and make them kind of come to that realization, giving positives and negatives about each property compared to their own.
Yeah, I'm a big, I'm not that I'm trained in NLP. However, I'm a big, let them self-reflect through kind of my guidance of the conversation, right? Like, hey, I'm curious. On this home over here, it has quartz countertops. Yours has kind of builder grade. If you were a buyer coming in, which one do you think you would prefer? Okay, what's the impact, do you think, if you were the buyer between the two? Which one would you be willing to pay more for? So I'm just kind of going through and just taking them through self-discovery, and they're like, okay, I thought my house was going to be worth a lot more, but now that you've shown me the exact examples in my neighborhood and the interiors and the differences, I think I was a little unrealistic on the price.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. What price would you like it to be at, right?
And then pricing with the strategies. So going into it and going back to their motivation. If they don't have to sell it for 3 months, they might price it a little higher on that range. If they need to sell it and be out in 30 days, then they're probably going to be aggressive with that pricing. And it's your job as their consultant to express that to them and say, hey, we can go about this 2 different ways based on your motivation. If we do it more at the top of the price range and you aren't in a huge rush to sell, just know that we might have to come in 2 weeks and do a $5,000 price reduction or a $1,000 price reduction. As long as you're setting that expectation, they're not going to have an issue with it. So just coming to the table with those two strategies behind it.
And honestly, a lot of times I will put in the listing agreement that they agree to do a price reduction if we've done 10 showings or 1 week, 2 weeks, whatever. Because I have had a few times where they conveniently forget that conversation happened and they're like, nah, we want to still roll the dice. Okay, I'd rather just get it on the table on the front end, throw it in the contract, make it happen. The other thing that we don't talk much about around pricing is if you're in a competing situation, a tip you may or may not have heard about is they may come back with an objection that says, but another agent said my house is worth more than what you said. And I said, cool. However, did we see the value and how I came up with it? Yeah, but the other agent said they could get us more. I'm like, okay, how do you think that agent will respond if you ask them to put in their listing agreement that if they ask you to drop price, you have the ability to cut the contract right then and there? I promise you, if you have that conversation with that listing agent, they're going to likely have a different tune because you now put in their listing agreement, you have the ability to terminate upon a price reduction. They're not going to be as willing to say, because a lot of times, let's face it, a lot of listing agents who are hungry will take an overpriced listing for a couple of things. They could be doing it just to run a bunch of open houses and get buyers out of it, and it'll never sell. However, cool, they got some buyers and some business out of it. Good for them. Or they're just taking it and they're just desperate for a deal, and it's never going to be a deal anyways because the seller's not going to be able to sell at that price.
So offers and negotiations, you are obviously a listing agent receiving the offers. In a multiple offer situation, I would highly advise you going into command and looking at that command feature for multiple offers. I think it's amazing. We actually just used it, Sunday night?
Mhm.
And it was a good opportunity for us to be able to go in and say, hey, this is high level, the points between each offer. So they could just easily see it. And that's just within the opportunity. In the tabs, you'll see an offers tab, and you can just add each offer in there and answer the questions that it gives you. And then it'll shoot out a nice little report for you.
Yeah, I've never done it, and I'm a dummy, and it was my listing, and Brooke steered me through it. And if I can do it, almost anybody can do it, even though
Second that.
I had to still ask her to help me fill it out. So very easy, but it was easy to put in a PDF. It was easy for me to send off to my client. Granted, it doesn't get into the details of the contract by any means, yet it still gave a quick visibility of some of the higher level pieces of it your client's interested in. And then it's kind of already preloaded in, I think, the opportunities that when you take an offer.
It helps our operations team.
Well, then I don't care about that. So the next slide. All right, offers and negotiations. So negotiation mindset, right? Everything's in mindset. And I think we only have a couple more slides to go. So just bear with us here. So above all else, we mentioned that, we foot stomped that. Be professional, don't get emotional. I don't care what objection they throw at you. Be the bigger person and have a way to handle that objection. And again, I think the best way to handle any objection is to come back with another question. Seek clarity, gain clarity. I'm all about clarity. You don't really know why they threw the objection out. It could be totally that they're just uneducated about it. It could be that their neighbor told them a lie about what the house was, what they sold their house for. You don't really know. Just ask the questions and really figure out. Come from curiosity. We say that all the time. Just really come from curiosity.
And with that, your goal and the other agent's goal, and both parties, buyer and seller, the end goal is to get that signed contract in a win-win situation for all parties involved. So always know in the back of your head that that's the goal. Negotiations can get a little feisty here and there, if you say. So just always going back to that. Your interest is for your sellers and what's going to help your sellers move forward. And always controlling what you say. So you don't want anyone involved in the transaction. You don't want to create that anxiety in your clients and other parties. So just control what you say. Don't give out too much information. Don't scare your clients off. Come with facts. Get things written in paper. The verbal back and forth can get out of control. So again, just watch what you say and always refer back to that motivation. So if you're working with sellers who are like, I don't like that offer. Like for example, we just had a listing and we had 2 offers on it, both over asking, and they were a little upset at the offer price with 2 days on the market. So we're just going back to that motivation. Hey, why did you need to sell this? Because I want to get into my new build. I want to get into my brand new home. Well, awesome. You've got 2 great offers on the table here. Let's kind of review these further and go back into that motivation.
And sometimes they're hiring you to be a consultant. That's a great recent example is I had to coach them through, okay, if you want to keep countering back and forth and getting more than already over asking price, perhaps we should have listed it higher. Therefore, you're kind of going to end up shooting yourself in the foot. And by having that honest conversation, they asked me to push one more time and an offer bailed. They're like, we're out. This is too painful. And again, I coached them to that could be the scenario that happened. They did. Luckily, we were able to survive and keep the other one heartbeat going on the other offer and get it signed. Yet it was a lesson they had to learn. Luckily, we were able to just have another offer. So.
And you always want to know the motivation of your seller, but that does not mean that you give that motivation to the buyer's agent. So you want to listen more than talk. Don't reveal too much. Don't ever be attached to the outcome. And you might be hungry, you might be financially strapped, but you cannot be attached to the outcome. It's going to have, you're subconsciously going to have negative connotations to most things that you're saying, and you're going to end up revealing too much, and you're going to end up not being that consultant for your clients.
People can read desperation.
Yep.
Just because you breathe it, right? You got to be like, turn that off, right? Even if you're eating ramen noodles and you're like, I really need this deal. You got to think it differently. You got to think like, hey, life is great. I'm so excited about this opportunity. Not so much, I need this deal, I need this deal, I need this deal.
Cool, contract to close process. So when it comes to bulletproofing the transaction, take everything with a will go wrong approach. So with that said, you want to be as proactive as possible. You want to make sure that anything that could go wrong, you've already addressed, discussed, and looked into and investigated. So just keep that in mind. I am more than happy. I know I shared my pre-listing workflow with you on this call here. We do have a contract to close workflow as well for a seller. So if anybody does want a copy of that, I'm happy to share it. But for the sake of time, in order to allow for Q&A, I think we'll kind of skip through that tedious aspect of that contract to close process. Post-close system. So what happens when you close? You just say bye. It was great working with you. I'll see you in 7 to 9 years when you're likely to sell again. That's not the case. Some other agent is going to scoop in and adopt your clients. That's what you call an orphan client. You need to have a process in place in order to keep your face in front of them, not only for their business again, but for their friends and family's business as well, for those referrals. So I'll kind of show this a little bit. This is our expansion 75 touch plan. So every time a client closes, we have a tagging system that we put them on, similar to that ABC buyer. So we'll have like an SOI in state, and then we'll have high touch clients and VIP clients that are more likely to refer us business. We've got a greater relationship with those clients. We're going to treat them a little bit differently. Your database is not treated equally. So again, it's about being intentional, putting it on paper. This, because we have a 75 touch plan, we did not have this forever. We had a 33 touch plan, then a 36 touch plan, and then in 2019, we decided to put that on steroids and go 75. So a mixture of marketing. Okay, this is really, really just meant to keep your face associated with the name real estate. That's it. Doesn't really necessarily matter what the content is. To some extent it does if you're doing like direct mailings. But for the most part, it's just seeing Mike Nelson, real estate agent. That's it. That's the purpose of this, and continuing that. And I think the largest part of your touch plan is a quarterly call. If you're concerned that you're going to forget to do that quarterly call, set them up on a DT-D2 program, or put them on a quarterly call smart plan in command, and that'll keep it in front of you so that you don't forget to do that. If you do nothing else, if you don't have the time, energy, interest in doing a touch plan whatsoever, that's your own prerogative. I would just say doing a quarterly call out of all of these steps in the 75 touch plan. If an agent does 4 out of these 75, they're still better off than most.
Yeah, and that's what Gary will say is 12 to 2 in your database if you're running it effectively. For every 12 people, you'll get a referral and you'll get an actual buy seller out of it. So know how important this is. What I find a lot of times with real estate agents is they come into the business because they want to help buyers and sellers buy and sell homes. Awesome. We all want to do that, right? However, not too many of them either want to be business owners or they don't want to build a business. And I'm being a little bit blunt with people because that's the tough part. I believe the tough part is building a business, building systems, building stuff that's not exactly exciting and glamorous and fun. Yet those who build foundations with systems and processes and follow the models are, I don't even know, I'm just making up a number, but 10 times more successful than those who don't. It's a big process, building systems, learning the models, and following them.
And I think with the post-closing systems, the biggest thing is Gary preaches this, come from contribution. Everything you're doing should be coming from contribution. You should be providing them value so they continue coming to you. Whether that's saying, hey, I'm going to highlight this local roofer for a business highlight. I'm going to send it to my database. Got a 250 person database. I'm willing to bet one of those people needs their roof replaced. So there's your value. Especially with spring, right? You get all these hailstorms, you get the roofers door knocking. Yeah. You've already put some expertise out there. And again, I'm not in a position to risk my license of saying somebody's roof's good or bad or different, yet I can say,
and be careful too is like, hey, I've used this guy to do roofs on my property, so have my clients. However, you should interview them to see if they're a good fit for you, right? Make sure you're careful with some of that language as well. You don't want that to come back on you if they did do a bad job for whatever reason.
And then we just kind of have some additional resources. So that contract to close, what an agent is versus a consultant, which we kind of talked about. I did mention that I'd bring up that listing appointment toolkit for you guys. Just what you need to have in your back pocket for that appointment. So if anyone wants to jot any of these down, just that paperwork. So you want to have your listing agreement, the MLS listing form, your disclosures, the loan authorization or amortization, home inspection. So you might need to kind of go in there with some measuring tape for the listing if you need to measure the room sizes. CMA, your presentation and area map, business cards, lockbox, yard sign, camera, all that type of stuff is going to be highly important for you. And then I think the lead generation sources would probably be a beneficial one too. And I'm happy to send these out to you as well. Or at least to Anna to shoot out to everybody else if it decides to load. There we go.
So again, most of this comes from the MREA book. And so again, there's not a lot of new creative ways to do business. Too many times we don't want to do the hard work stuff. We want to find this shiny object that makes it easy. I don't want a door knock. Cool, but it works, right? Well, I don't want to do my DT-D2 and call my database. Cool, yet it works, right? There's so many things that work. And the other thing we find is agents don't give it enough time or focus that's required to show that it works or doesn't work. They tire out too quickly. They give up too quickly. All of these things work. It's just a matter of, are you working them at the level you require to work it? I will promise you, I kind of do all of our lead gen on like what I call steroids. I don't just do the basics of an open house, just like Gary does a 7-level open house. I didn't come up with that. That's not Mike's a genius. That's Mike executes a 7-level, where I know most agents will do a 2, 3, or 4 level. Just means I'm going to get more business because I'm willing to do the 7 levels.
Cool. Well, I think that pretty much sums it up for what we had today. We did want to leave at least like 15, 20 minutes in case anybody had some questions. If you guys want us to dig deeper into any topic that we did discuss here, we're happy to do that as well. And if you don't have any questions, that is fine with us as well.
It's really quiet.
I know.
I love it.
We covered a lot in an hour and 40 minutes for an 8-hour class. So
yeah, we jammed a lot of it, and yeah, we were trying to get more of the meat of the content down than a lot of interaction for sure. So.
Well, and we'll have the recording available, so anybody who attended today, you'll automatically get a copy of the recording. And are there going to be, Mike, are you going to have any of your checklists and things like that available, or is that?
Yeah, I think
there's probably a student manual that I could send out, right?
A manual, and we have some of our products that we use, if you will, like we did last time. We're willing to share those out for the greater good of your office. So Brooke can kind of do what we did last time, I think, is send you a couple of things, if you don't mind, Anna, simulating that and sharing that as those that participated. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to get that out. I know last time you taught, I had a glitch in getting it out. I thought I sent it and I didn't. It was stuck in my outbox forever. So thankfully somebody brought it to my attention and I was able to get it out to everybody. So I will make sure.
Yeah, and I think I actually sent some of those checklists, so the contract to close and the pre-list. I think that was talked on the last class too.
Yeah.
So some people might have that already. But again, I'm happy to send that. It's pretty quick for me to do, so no biggie on our end for that. We're happy to share. We've
That's awesome.
duplicated most of our stuff, so.
That's kind of what we do, right? Oh, that looks good. Yeah.
There's really nothing unique in our business. That's just a matter of,
Actually implementing it. So a lot of people go to a class or a training and they come out and they're like, I got all of these great ideas, and they don't actually implement it. So one of the biggest things we like to preach is you attend one training and you can pick out at least one thing to implement. Just pick one thing and do it, and make sure you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Christy, your hair looks good.
I was going to say the same thing.
I don't think she meant to show us.
That's not fun. I wanted to see the foils and the
dye
goo
and
and
everything.
whatever you guys do in your hair.
You're on mute.
Yeah, I also had a face mask. It was
Nice.
beautiful.
You missed it.
Quite the experience.
Awesome. Well, thank you, ladies. I really appreciate you all. I believe it's all ladies on the call. If there's guys, I apologize. But thank you for being on, and I really appreciate your time. Call us if you need anything. Hopefully you've seen from us that we are here for you, whether you're on the team or not on the team. That's just KW culture. We're going to take care of you. We're going to get you what we got. Please let us know. Thank you for the opportunity to come in. Again, I will remind folks that please, if you have anybody in Nashville or up in Colorado Springs or down in Colorado Springs or northern Colorado, please let us know. We'll be happy to take care of them. So, and anyways, thanks so much for your time.
Awesome. It was good to see you guys and everybody who came today.
Thanks, Anna.
Have a great afternoon.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
A nice long weekend.
Yeah, you bet.
Selling homes and selling real estate.
Yeah. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.